All right, today we're going to talk about state of formation. So when you go to form a legal entity, clients are often asking, hey, which state should I form my LLC in? So I want to go over just a little bit of the basics of that today. Let me share my screen. So we're going to talk about state of formation today. So what are the legal issues when it comes to forming an entity? So what type of entity structure? You have to figure out, am I doing a corporation, an LLC, some type of partnership? How's it going to be taxed? So there's S Corp elections that can be made, partnerships, who are going to be the owners, who is the managers, and who's in control of that entity. So those are some of the preliminary things you think about when you're setting up an LLC or a corporation. And this is a summary that if you want to comment or email me, I'll send you my guide to selecting a business entity. And this is a summary from that and basically says, here's the different types of entity: LLC, an S corporation, C corporation, and various types of partnerships. And my summary goes over basically some of the differences between those types of entities. So I'm not going to get into that today. But basically, when it comes to when I want to form an entity, what state do I choose? So I live, let's say I'm in Texas, and do I form an entity in Texas, the LLC here? Do I go to Delaware? Do I go to Wyoming? What are some of the questions that I should think about? First of all, what's the intent for your entity? Is it just to do business locally where you're located? Is it the first step in going public? So for example, if you are setting up a company that you already know is going to be taken public and be listed, then you usually start out with a Delaware corporation. And those are typically formed in Delaware. So structure, what type is it, an LLC? Most states will allow you to form almost every type of entity in them. For example, like an LLC, there's a variation called a series LLC. Not every state allows you to form a series LLC in that state. So Delaware, Texas, Nevada, those allow series LLCs, but some states don't allow you to. So depending on your structure, you have to check to make sure you can actually form it in that state. What's the state law on that structure? So typically most people go to Delaware for LLCs and corporations because the corporate law in Delaware has been around for so long and so tested and so protective that it's very well known and everyone trusts Delaware law. So that's why it ends up being used as a very common state to form things in. However, if you're doing business somewhere else, if you form in Delaware and you're doing business in Texas, you may still have to qualify that Delaware entity as basically a foreign entity doing business in the state that you're located in. One of the other questions that people ask about is privacy. So some states, people hear, oh, Wyoming has the best privacy. A variety of states have decent privacy in terms of who are the owners or who are the management of that entity. Starting in next year, January 1st, 2024, the Corporate Transparency Act may eliminate a lot of those protections. That's going to be, I'll do a separate series on that, but that's taking effect in January, and it requires certain filing obligations on beneficial ownership of entities, even small LLCs. So that may not be a benefit anymore, privacy. But most states, Delaware, Texas, Nevada, Wyoming, have good, privacy anyways. Reporting obligations, those are all pretty standard among the states. Now, where are you doing business or where do you own assets? If you're buying a piece of property, you typically need an entity in that state. Now, if you're buying real estate in Texas, do you have to have a Texas LLC? No. You can have a Delaware LLC. However, you have to file something in Texas with the Secretary of State to qualify that entity to do business in Texas. So just because the property or the LLC is formed in Delaware, it can still do business in other states. It's just an extra filing that you have to do. And for example, taxation is an issue that comes up. And a lot of times, especially areas like California, where there's a minimum franchise tax of $800 per year, even if you're losing money, a lot of people don't want to have to file either in that state or qualify their business in that state to avoid paying that tax. However, if your business is based in California, you have assets there, even if you form a Nevada LLC or a Delaware LLC, typically you're probably going to have to qualify it as a foreign entity in California and pay that tax. But state tax obviously is a concern that you need to look at when choosing which state. Where are the owners and managers of the LLC or corporation located? Those can come into play as well. So just because you're located in one state doesn't mean you only have to form the entity in that state. You can form a Minnesota corporation for something you're doing in Texas, but you probably have to file something in Texas to do business in Texas. So that's just a quick overview. Basically, bottom line is there's some factors you have to look at: taxation, structure, what the intent is, and where your assets or where you're doing business is when determining which state that you want to form your entity in. Thanks for watching, and if you want a copy of the guide to basically selecting which legal entity you want, go ahead and shoot me an email or just comment on this video. Thanks for watching.